Hello, in this video we'll be discussing the editorial analysis of the Hindu newspaper. Today is 29 July 2020. There are two articles to be focused. The first article is regarding the Russia, India and China, how a triangle that is still important. Calls for the westward shift in India's foreign policy appear misplaced as engagement with Russia and China does matter. So a few eyebrows were raised when India decided to attend a virtual meeting of the Foreign Minister of Russia, India and China, that is RIC. Amid the tension of the line of actual control, the dominant calls were more decisive westward shift in India's foreign policy, that is Russia, India and China together it is of RIC meeting seemed incongruous in this setting. The leader's statement, which reflected the divergent preoccupations, then the Chinese minister didn't see the irony in his call for opposing the bullying practices, rejecting power politics and supporting the rule of law in international relations. Russia's foreign minister also criticized unilateral coercive measures to settle scores with geopolitical rivals and also topple regimes. India's external minister said that emphasized that for the durable world order, our major powers should respect the international law and recognize the legitimate interest of the partners. In the initial years when the RIC dialogue commenced in the early 2000s, it was not an anti-US construct at all, and all these three countries considered their relationship with the United States as an essential prop to their global ambitions. The RIC shared some of the non-West, that is, distinct from anti-West perspectives on the global order, such as the emphasis on the sovereignty and territorial integrity, impatience with the homeless, and on the social policies of opposition to regime the change from abroad. So their support for democratization of the global economic and financial architecture moved to the agenda of BRICS with addition of Brazil. So the initial years of RIC dialogue coincided with an upswing of India's relation with Russia and China. Then when the China in 2003 decision to bring the political approach to boundary dispute and to develop the other cooperation encouraged a multi-sectorial surge in the relations. An agreement in 2005 identified political parameters applicable in the eventual border settlement, implicitly recognized India's interest in Arunachal Pradesh. So subtext to India-US ties, India's relation with the US surged, encompassing trade and investment, a landmark civil nuclear deal, and a burgeoning defense relations that met India's objective of diversifying military acquisitions away from near total dependence on Russia, as China was rapidly emerging as a challenger to its global permanence. The US saw values in partnering with democratic India in Asia. Former US Secretary of the State and National Security Advisor also writes about his memories, says that transformations in the external environment impacted on these political equations. Among other irritants, China went back on the 2005 agreement, launched the China-Pakistan Economics Corridor, worked to undermine India's influence in its neighborhood and expanded its military and economic presence in the Indian Ocean. So the texture of the relation with Russia also changed as India-US collaboration widened, and also as the US-Russia relations imploded in 2014 after the annexation or accession of the Crimea. Russia's pushback against the US included cultivating the Taliban in Afghanistan and enlisting Pakistan's support for it. The Western camp to isolate Russia drove it to much closer embrace of China, particularly in the defense cooperation. Then the history of this strategic rivalry should have been permitted. Thus the RIC claim of overlapping or similar approaches to the key international issues sounds hollow today. So the links in the grouping, having noted that the Russia, India, China engagement still has significance. India is in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO, which is driven by Russia and China and also includes Central Asian countries. Central Asia is strategically located bordering our turbulent neighborhood. A sliver of land separates Tajikistan from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and Pakistan membership of SCO and the potential admission of Iran and Afghanistan as member states heightened the significance of the SCO for India. Growing Chinese influence in testing the informal Russia-China understanding that Russia handles the political security issues in the region of China extends economic support. So it is important for India to shape the Russia-China dynamics in the region to extent possible. The Central Asian countries have signaled they would welcome such a dilution of Russia's China duopoly. The ongoing India-Iran-Russia project for a sea, road or rail link from western India through Iran to Afghanistan and Central Asia is an important initiative for achieving an effective India presence in Central Asia along the Russia and China. So the bilateral arms of India, Russia, China triangle will also remain very important. The defense and energy pillars of India's partnership with Russia remain strong. Access to Russia's abundant natural resources can enhance our material security, the importance of which had been highlighted by the COVID-19. With China too, while the recent development should not accelerate our efforts to bridge the bilateral asymmetries, this engagement is not an option. We also have to work bilaterally and multilaterally on the range of issues, even while firmly protecting our interests on the border in technology and the economy. So the Indo-Pacific issue is the elephant in the RIC room is Indo-Pacific. For India, it is a geographic space of economic and security importance in which the cooperative order should prevent the dominance of any external power. So the autonomy of action is that the current India-China standoffs have intensified calls for India to fast-track partnership with US. This is an unexceptionable objective but is not a silver bullet. National security cannot be fully outsourced. India's quest for autonomy of action is based on its geographical realities, historical legacies and global ambitions, not residual Cold War mindset. So as noted, RIC dynamics are sensitive to the configuration of US-Russia-China triangle. So the nature and impact of this change is for not an unknown to unknown. This is regarding the RIC issue. The next article is on the drugs and vaccines and the regulators. So the effect of COVID-19 has hurried drug regulatory authorities, usually the most risk-averse within the bureaucracy. Do not harm is a driving principle of the drug regulation, and this is reflected to the thickest of the documents and permissions that stand before the average novel drug or vaccine. For a chance to making it a market, however, the SARS-CoV-2, while mostly non-lethal, kills all across the demography and age groups that confounded sophisticated case systems, and also sent a signal to the drug companies, biomedical firms and governments to scramble for anything with even the slightest chance of success. It is in the context that the regulators used to long timelines of testing new vaccine or drugs are now under pressure to facilitate the solution rather than to stick to weighing dwelling on evidence of efficacy and safety. India's Drug Regulatory Authority, as well as the Department of Biotechnology, which also funds vaccine development and drug research, now collaborate on fast tracking. For instance, if an Indian company had partnered with a foreign one in developing a vaccine, then any trials already conducted by the foreign unit would be considered in allowing Indian companies to avoid repeating them in India. For drugs, those that have been proven to be safe for treating one disease may skip afresh a large human trial or phase 3 trial. Potential vaccines too are now allowed to combine stages of trials. Normally, regulators must approve result of each stage to permit those testing the drug to move to the next stage. The rush to compress timelines in itself is no guarantee that the workable vaccine or reliable drug will emerge any faster. Drugs and vaccines development have historically been expensive because immunology is a complex, eternal struggle with the disease and with high failures. There has been instances when disease mortality is so high that not offering even a half-baked drug or vaccine would be unethical. This is a call regulators to have constantly take, but not all the emergencies are the same. There is now a situation in the case of Etiolizumab, a psoriasis drug repurposed for COVID-19, where the drug regulator had approved it for emergency use of COVID-19 task force have been expressed its reservations. Such dissonance among the experts is unacceptable, especially when they all have access to the same evidence. There is also a tendency of to view the COVID-19 vaccine development of a new drug as a race in which the only first vaccine to be out matters. Historically, vaccines, even though the targeting the same disease, only get better over time. Will COVID-19 continuously linger as an endemic disease, or will it mutate into oblivion? If it is, a former scientist can continue to the work on better drugs or improved vaccines. Haste is not the aid of science. This is regarding the article discussion of the Hindu editorial. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.